Recently, several other piano teachers shared this video with me telling me that my method has been stolen. Today, I'm joined by Jacob Hammonds from Piano by Picture to see if this is true.
Yeah, Dr. Kelly, I believe I was one of the piano teachers who sent this over to you this weekend. I saw it and some alarm bells went off for me immediately, so I think we need to get into this and see what's going on.
For sure. Let's check it out.
It's a fairly safe bet that most kids taking piano lessons don't like them. That was certainly my experience. I took piano from age 5 to 12 before quitting in frustration. The scales and sheet music and strict teacher just got the best of me.
Man, it sounds like he's writing one of our ads for us.
Along comes a piano teacher named Payam. The 32-year-old son of Iranian immigrants says he's come up with a new method of teaching that has students loving their piano lessons.
Piano's not supposed to be fun.
That's not easy.
Strict. It's supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to be like this very intense instrument you're learning. And we're like, why? Like, why can't it be fun?
I wonder where his training is. Did you look up his training or anything?
Why can't we actually enjoy the songs we're learning? Our students don't just learn piano, they love piano. And that's what the biggest.
He sounds good.
Can you play a little bit from right there? Same spot.
We got to see what this sheet of music that he's putting down is, right?
Play without licking. You want to look up? Yeah, let's look up and play.
In nearly every room of a converted home in the Seattle suburb of Bothell, Washington, Payam and his team of young teachers, all former students of his, are giving piano lessons and having fun.
That was really good. Bum, 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 bum.
Students are charged between $75 and $100 per lesson.
Start from here.
And range from preschool beginners to high school talents. Wow.
High five. Amazing.
Wow.
I like the wrong notes. It makes you know it's real.
Amazing. In piano, we have this thing called the diploma, which is sort of like the black belt of the musical world. Traditionally, about 1 to 2% of students reach diploma level, and it takes them about 12 years. In our school, 96% reach it, and it takes them about 4 years.
What does he mean by diploma? Like going to school for school?
Yeah, the diploma level is kind of vague. That's a new thing to me.
Yeah. I mean, does he mean like going to school? I'd say like, 1 to 2% of piano students going to music school is probably generous.
Hold on a minute. It can't be that easy. It can't be that fun. I mean, in order to be a really good pianist, you've got to have discipline. You've got to have hard work. You've got to have rigor. Are they wrong?
I agree and disagree. Of course, nobody will become phenomenal at anything unless they actually put in the time and energy. But when you actually enjoy what you're doing, you don't realize that you're putting in the time for that.
So they love it first.
They love it first. If you learn 1, 3, 5,
There it is.
There it is, yeah.
Well, all right, so here he's doing numbers, and it looks like those are some finger numbers. And then underneath, maybe he's doing like a static bass note.
Looks like a static bass note with some melody up top.
But with ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and with actually writing numbers on piano keys.
This is a song I would teach my 3-year-old student that would come into class one day. And we understand this is 1, this is 5. They're not reading notes. They're not even sometimes looking at sheet music. We're playing a game. And it's fun for them because they'll go 1, 2, 3. And then I'll say, good job, let's go 1, 1, 2, 5. And then they'll think and they'll go. And what they're doing is building this coordination.
And using tools they already know, numbers and letters, to learn a...
And so this one is almost exactly, chords in the left hand, letters in the right hand.
100%. So that's very, very similar. The yellow B there is very similar. more so than the first one. Because I like this so far, actually. Like, I'll be honest.
So what are your initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like the 1, 2, 3, the exercise, the 5-finger position, like leaving your hands in one place, viewing it as a game, and trying to find it, trying to find like a tune through the numbers. I think that's wise. I think it's kind of similar to what we do. And then obviously this one, the yellow B with like the chords there, that is like textbook piano by pictures. No rhythm, no written notes. Ours are more colorful. Ours look better, and have a few other advantages. But I don't hate this at all. Like, I think this is great.
Yeah, that was kind of my my gut reaction is I don't hate anything that this guy is talking about. My first question with you, it doesn't show him playing too much, but just based off of what you did see, how do you feel about him as a technician on the piano? Do you think he has chops?
Yeah, I'd say he probably has some chops. I mean, we react to Lang Lang and Yundi Lee and Martha Argerich and all kinds of people like that on this. I don't think he's at that level. I don't think I'm at that level either. Obviously, I actually feel like that's his like level of playing, and maybe my level of playing too, is like a good level of playing for a teacher. I actually think there's like kind of a bell curve, where if you suck at the bottom, you're obviously not a good teacher because you know what you're talking about. And then once you know a certain amount and you can explain things clearly, then you're kind of optimal. And then if you keep going down the nerdy, and then you just want to talk about, early Beethoven versus late Beethoven, like, you can lose like beginning students.
Well, I think another thing too is that it's a totally different skill set to master the piano, and then a totally other thing to figure out the best way to explain some of these things to people, and also to know your audience and explain these high concepts to people in language that they're going to understand. And I mean, as a teacher, that's something I'm still refining.
100%. Yeah, it's totally different. I feel bad for the first piano student that I had when I was a master's student. I got my first piano student. And now I've taught thousands of hours of piano lessons, and kind of know, you can actually, like, I don't know if you've had this experience with students, but after a while, like, you can look at the body language and like, you're gonna miss this note in 3 beats.
Yeah.
Especially with the scales, just like the way they approach it with the body language, you can just tell. Yeah, it's just experience, right? But anyway, back to this guy's playing. Yeah, I don't think you. I think if you're Oscar Peterson or just one of these like geniuses, I don't think that's maybe optimal for teaching. So. Well,
yeah, and they're probably on the road anyway if you're on that level, because people want to watch that.
But sure. even before that, I mean, that's like top of the top, like once in a generation, or 1 to 5 times in a generation. Even before that, though, there's a lot of really brilliant pianists out there. Yeah, he's probably a good pianist, middle of the road. That's just my guess. It's just a few notes.
Given that this is pretty similar to Piano by Pictures, are you suspicious? Do you think he saw an ad 3 years ago?
So you told me this started in 2017, right?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge.
Maybe that's when he opened his first school. I don't know. I mean, we started in 2017 as well. That was the first time. I'm not too concerned. Was it Beethoven or Picasso or whoever said good artists like copy or are inspired and great artists steal? If he takes mine and makes it slightly different, which he does, right? He's got the numbers on the keyboard, which is something we haven't done. I think there's a reason for that, but reason being who we serve and who we teach. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm slightly suspicious. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, yeah, I saw your Piano by Pictures thing, but my stuff is kind of inspired by guitar tabs. How could I do guitar tabs for piano? Because guitar tabs are so much easier than if a guitarist were to learn how to read sheet music. Guitar tabs are so much easier, like numbers and frets, that's all you do. So Piano by Pictures for me was born out of the question, how do I make piano learning more like guitar tabs so that people can access it easier and play easier?
I'm sure most piano teachers have had a moment where they've thrown up their hands and just written down the notes for a student. I think a lot of it has to do with how you write down those notes and then what you do with those written notes afterwards. That really makes the difference.
Sure.
Let's go ahead and keep watching.
Let's do it.
New language, the language of music.
For example, I really want to learn Chinese. If somebody put a book in front of me that was in Chinese, my brain would just
lock up.
Exactly, and I have no idea what I'm doing. But if they taught me using a language I know, which is ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, it would make sense. I'd be like, oh, I learned it, and then I'm just mapping it out.
It's so true, because
Just as students of Chinese eventually learn Chinese characters, Payam students do shift to sheet music as they move through the 18 levels of his curriculum.
How long does it take to go from this to this?
This is our level 2. This is our level 13. This would take about 1.5 years to 2 years for students.
The operative word in music is, after all, play.
there he is.
So be playful.
There he is.
Of course, Han shows up and he's like, get some shots of me shredding on my synthesizer, of course.
More than 150 films. He's been nominated for 12 Oscars and won 2.
You had an unconventional music education.
I had an unconventional education, to say the least. 8 schools asked me to leave. I left with pleasure.
Is that the
His accent makes everything so much better.
unconventionality
I left with pleasure.
drew you to Payam and his method?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's
And of course he shows up because he's kind of an unconventional guy.
Yeah.
Most of Payam's students don't aspire to be concert pianists,
Bum, 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 bum.
and his playful approach seems to have them loving their lessons. But what really sets him apart is that he's also teaching them to compose their own original songs at very young ages. Delara is just 12.
This is your 3rd composition you've written?
Yeah.
This is your composition?
Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent.
I mean, and that's pretty much it. The rest of the video is his CEO and investors talking about how they supported his business, and they have some parents say that my kids love this. But yeah, you get the idea.
I get the idea, yeah. So let's talk about how his method is like similar to Piano by Pictures and how it is different. In his music, there's a couple levels, right? We have the number type thing that he showed at first, and then we kind of move to the letters. And he's absolutely right. ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, people know that. People are able to like grasp that right away. And we do the same thing in that we have the ABCs, the notes written out. And we call it Piano by Pictures because we have a picture of the keyboard with all the notes spelled out for where you're supposed to put your hands. And we also have a picture that shows where the notes are, right? We don't necessarily start at where he starts his 3-year-olds with specifically numbers. We go right to notes. And the reason for that, and why I think it works for us, and what he does works for him, is we don't teach 3-year-olds. We usually teach adults, right? His methods are focused on kids, and ours are focused on adults. And so adults have had years and years with 1, 2, 3s and ABCs. And so we can move right into that. However, they have not had years with sheet music. They have not had years with notation. What he said with his metaphor about Chinese, if you put Chinese up in there, it's really, really confusing. Yeah, they haven't had any time with sheet music. And so when people try to learn that way and they try to use methods, take traditional piano lessons and dive into sheet music right away, they usually get overwhelmed. And that's why so many people quit. So I completely agree with what he said about piano should be fun. It should be accessible. You should be able to have success right away. The best way to have success is to have fun, so you don't realize that you're getting better or that you're making progress. And yeah, I mean, I liked a lot of what he said. But I would say that our method's different because we focus on adults, and because we focus on adults, we maybe skip the one step of using numbers to play. You know, we don't draw on the keys or do anything like that. But another thing that we have that maybe he doesn't have from what I've seen is kids kind of come, you know, how many songs do kids know? They know a few songs, right? And they're usually like simple songs. Adults come, they've been listening to music their entire life, and they want to play Yesterday by the Beatles. They want to play How Great Thou Art that they've sung in church their entire life. And so if we were to use a method where we show them like a song called like Tiger's Walk, or I don't know, whatever, they'd be like, what's this? But when we show them Piano by Pictures method and we show, hey, here's Amazing Grace. Here's a song that you love, that you've sung, and we can teach you how to play this in a few minutes. then they get really excited, and when they sit down and actually do play it in a few minutes, they get hooked almost instantly. And that's why we have so many successful piano students at Piano by Pictures.
I think you made a really great point, because the mental game of learning piano is very different for a child than it is for an adult. Can you talk about some of those differences of the kind of psychology behind teaching adults versus teaching children?
First of all, let me dispel the myth that adults learn slower than kids. It's not true. Adults pick up on things faster the same way they would pick up on, if you taught an adult German and you taught a 5-year-old German, an adult would actually get better faster. The child, on the other hand, would speak it better eventually. They would be able to learn it on a level that the adult couldn't. Adults start faster on the curve of their learning, and children start slower, but because they're children and because their brains are picking up things in different ways and on deeper levels, they will eventually surpass the adult. Like if you start piano at 5 and you have somebody start piano at 50 and they both practice, there's no way that the 50-year-old can catch up to the 5-year-old after about, 5 to 10 years of playing, because the child will know it on a deep level. The brain's different. But initial success, adults can have initial success at the piano right away. And there's no, I feel like the stigma of if you're too old, you can't learn. It's super, super harmful, and it's definitely not true. And it's definitely not true with methods like Piano by Pictures.
For sure. I have some private students that are so impressive with the amount of music that they're able to learn, and they come to lessons each week being like, oh, I really didn't do too much. And then I have to tell them, you did a mountain of work this week, to get it to that point. It might not be where you want it yet, but I think they constantly underestimate how much progress they're making. Yeah. What you said before about that library of music that they already have in their head to draw on to learn can be a bit of a double-edged sword, because yes, they know what it's supposed to sound like, but then they get frustrated more easily because they know what it's supposed to sound
true.
like. The kid is not concerned with sounding bad at the piano. They've never been moved to tears by Beethoven. They haven't had that experience yet. And most kids probably. The adult student has, and so they're always going to be kind of chasing something, whereas the kid can kind of just learn freely and not judge every part of the process.
That's true. It's a double-edged sword that can stop adults from making progress if they're not. Which we do that a lot at Piano by Pictures. We try to say, you're doing awesome. It's okay if it doesn't sound like me, who's been playing forever.
The other thing that you don't have to overcome with the young students is a lot of adult students have, like the man said in the intro of that video, childhood lesson trauma that they need to overcome. So they have a bad experience going in because maybe a teacher wasn't experienced enough or didn't understand the nuance of how to teach that student or taught them stuff they didn't want to know. They have this impression about the act of learning the instrument because of that. And then they get into lessons with me, and it becomes my job not only to show them how to wiggle their fingers, but to undo a lot of these negative preconceptions about not only learning a new thing, but even just how to interact with art in general.
Sure. Yeah, no, you make a great point that children have the disadvantage of not being exposed to a lot of music and experience, but they also have the advantage of the same thing of not being exposed. And I would actually say that, I'm really confident that I could teach pretty much any adult with the Piano by Pictures method, and they could do it. And honestly, the thing that probably holds most adults back from not doing it is a mindset, is a false belief, because maybe of an experience as a child, or maybe things they've heard their entire life about piano being difficult, or you have to learn it young. And unlearning or just convincing them that that's not true, that's 90% of the battle. That's not, if you could just get them to say, maybe I can do this, and sit down and try it, then that's it. They've already pretty much arrived, because we can get them the rest of the way.
One of the other things, the differences I've noticed from teaching children and adults, is that they have different physical limitations as well. Can you speak to how you would teach technique to a child versus an adult who maybe has tendonitis or arthritis or a bad back or a bad knee?
Sure.
Or, what have you?
I'll give you one simple example. There's a lot to that we could create a whole We talked about this for a long time. I'll give you one example. When kids, especially like young kids, are playing, my philosophy is everything loud. I do teach them about dynamics, and I do teach them like, soft, and we do certain things, but and I know the comments are going to blow up. People are going to disagree with me because people teach dynamics really young to kids, and I can see the argument for it. But I think that when I was a university professor, so often what I would teach students is, I need you to project your melody. I need you to dig in, play to the bottom of the key, like let us hear clearly what you're doing. You're trying to fill the whole room with a sound. Even if it's it's a slow movement of Mozart and it's marked piano, like you still have to fill the room with a sound and give us like a really clear sound. And I think that problem of not being able to project correctly is a very frustrating problem to solve when they're older. And because of that, when I'm teaching kids, I'm like, can I just have you play louder? Like when you do the scales, can I have you play louder? Dig to the bottom of the key, try and press, because I would rather train that muscle. And part of the reason I think this is because I think in a biography about Scriabin and I believe Horowitz, they said they were both like bangers when they were young. They both played like super loud to the point where a teacher would be like, you shouldn't play so loud. You should add some soft stuff. And they just like played really loud and really went for it. And they, especially Horowitz, like had just had a famously beautiful ringing tone in all of his melodies as he played. So anyway, that's like when I teach kids, just the first example that came to mind, that's the focus. When I teach adults, often the focus is like, don't get injured or, just like preservation. We still focus on playing loud, but I think with adults, probably because of that focus on like health, I try and get them to loosen up their wrists, to like have follow through. Like I think the biggest unlock for adults can be, how do I not have the motion in my hand be the limiting factor? How can I play a note with my whole body, like from my shoulder, from my torso? Because if you can do that, think about having a bunch of pressure on your wrists or on your hand or on your fingers versus being supported by your whole body. If you can just figure out that one thing, it will solve all kinds of problems. It's not just injury prevention, but when you play that way, your sound is better. You play to the bottom of the key when you have the support from the rest of your body and you're not choking the sound off at the wrist by having them too high. Your sound will get way better too.
I tend to say this thing in class where after we're warming up and stuff, I'll say, hey, if it feels good, it's probably going to sound good. Because I've had, gigs where maybe it was gig 5 for the week and should have been done at gig 2, but I'm at gig 5 and I'm playing and I feel terrible and it's coming through in my sound. So the opposite is also true. If it feels bad, it might sound bad.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think another big difference between teaching adults and children is that there's the memory aspect as well that I'm kind of noticing in my lessons in class. Not only memorizing pieces per se, but also like remembering the concepts in those. And so one of the things that I've kind of had to learn to become a better teacher to adults is to not get frustrated when I have to explain things multiple times, but just think of it more as almost like an affirmation or a reminder where it's like, hey, every week, if I have to explain this over and over again, that's fine with me, because sometimes hearing something over and over and over again is what it takes to really get it to sink in.
And sometimes too, I can't tell you how many times I've had this experience where I'm practicing something and I hear my teacher's voice in my head tell me something that he told me 10 years ago. And I go, oh, that's what he meant by that. I like see that now in this example of this thing or the same experience if I'm teaching and I see a student and I say something and I hear his words, coming out of my mouth. I'm like, okay, yeah, now I see why. One great example being like when I was in high school, like, what do you mean play slower? Like, come on, like, what do you mean practice slow? So like I can play it fast. Why would I not? And now it's like when I was teaching a lot of private lessons, I'm like, I feel like I could just do a tape recorder of play slower, and put that next to the student, and that would be 80% of like what I do all day is just tell people to play slower.
Yeah, maybe we'll film a video where it's you just like this, and then we'll have a timer go off every 2 minutes, and you just say, try that again a little slower, don't forget to breathe, let's check that posture. Guided piano practice with Dr. Kelly. Dude, yeah, actually put that on the list. We gotta film that. Whenever we link up again, that'll get some views, I swear. Here's something that I thought was interesting about what this Payam method said, is that making practice fun is something that really matters. How are some ways that you help teach students to learn how to practice and how to not have a miserable time doing it?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think the first thing, or the first reason that Piano by Pictures students are more successful than average students that try and learn is that they learn songs that they want to learn right away. So the example I was talking about before of they've been singing this song their entire life. If you have to spend a couple months like learning pieces of music that you haven't heard before, it's just not as exciting. And the payoffs don't feel as good as learning something that, that you've like sung, a song that you've like loved your whole life. It's one of the ways we keep it fun and motivating for students is to do that. And then the other thing is just make sure that, we have like a beginner, intermediate, and difficult songs in our library. We don't, we don't start you with, one of the more difficult songs in the library. We'll start you with something that is easier, but still fun, but still something that you've sung, and we know which songs those are. And yeah, using the picture method, doing something that's accessible to you and also exciting to you, I think is just the way to keep it fun, because then you have success and you get a result that you're happy with. And because of those two things, you're having a ton of fun. And because you're having a ton of fun, you continue to practice and the cycle continues.
I think that's very powerful. And the levels, I think, are very important in Piano by Pictures as well, because the goal matters a lot, right? So for these kids taken from Payam Music School, they're young and they're ambitious and they want to get good. And it seems like a lot of them compete in competitions. And then, it seems like their goal is different. A lot of our students' goal is to play piano for pure enjoyment. And sometimes with the levels, the student gets to maybe like upper beginner level and they're happy as a clam and they want to live there.
That's right.
And we have other students, like the students in my advanced class, where they do have that ambition because they've gotten over the hurdle. They've spent time with their training wheels on and they're ready to take the training wheels off. And then in the advanced class, we challenge them and we talk about, then talk about reading music and then talk about different types of notation, improvisation, and jazz. And it's so much easier to do it because there is a foundation. While some students want to stay in that beginner level, we have, a handful of sharks in the Piano by Pictures program who are just doing amazing things.
I totally agree, and we definitely have those students. I would say that the majority, though, stay at that beginner intermediate level because it's very much a hobby. It's very much something that they can do for a few minutes, and they just get a tremendous amount of joy, like enough joy out of playing those beginning and intermediate songs that they like don't need anything else. And I would say that's probably a difference between us and the Payam is the way he described his school is like, let's get you through the levels. And I think in Piano by Pictures, we do have that. We have that structure for those people that want to do that. But we also like know that it's a hobby. They're probably, he said they're not making concert pianists. We have a lot of people that will never play a concert or that will never play for anybody but their grandchildren and their spouse. That's what most people want anyway. Most people don't want the pressure of like a big concert, even if it's not a professional concert. They just want to be able to sit down and have fun at the piano.
Yeah, I totally agree. Personally, don't have a lot of problems with this guy. I kind of like what he's about. I think that there's a couple things that he did, like focusing on writing, and maybe some of those things with the finger numbers that I might give him a try in lessons.
If you have a student who's like really struggling or having a hard time with like and you want to break something down, a complicated song, you could do that.
Yeah, or maybe for a finger warm-up or something, like those inverted Palladi trills. Instead of putting the notes on there, just put the fingers. Much to think about. But in general, it seems like the things that separate us from this guy is style. Our age demographic is obviously different. So if you're a young kid and you want to take lessons in this style, I can't fault you for choosing this guy. But if you're an adult beginner and you're just trying to have the most fun you've ever had in your life playing piano, and I can confirm this from my private students, like the private students, the group class students, everyone's having a blast. So if you're an adult, go with us. The other thing that I think that is different between us and this guy is that we have this lovely Facebook community where a big chunk of our students are all friends with each other and they build each other up and encourage each other. You know, I've been here long enough to see some of these friendships between our students blossom, and a big thing like we talked about with the success is the psychology, and I think having a support group can be extremely powerful.
And they might have some of that stuff too, but we definitely have it. All of that is true.
Also, we have way more free stuff on our YouTube than they do, so that's a point for us for sure. Subscribe to Piano by Pictures if you're a beginner and you want a ton of beginner lessons, intermediate lessons, or if you want to get really heady and watch Dr. Kelly break down the performances of the greatest piano players of all time. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, if you want to know the best way to get started with Piano by Pictures, we'll drop a link to a free gift where you can get three books for free and also try our program for free, all in the description.
Well, thank you so much, man. I learn every time we talk to each other.
Thank you, Jacob. Have a great day.